That's right. All right, are we ready to proceed? Okay. Happy New Year, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to this online hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa. The Committee of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial tribunal appointed by City Council to make decisions on certain types of applications under the Planning Act. My name is John Blatherwick and I'm here today with my fellow members Bonnie Oakeshara, Michael Wildman, and Heather McLean. Please note that this video conference is being live streamed on YouTube. The video will be archived along with today's agenda on the city's website. Before we begin, we have a few items to outline for your information. While the issues surrounding development in the city are broad, our mandate is quite limited. The committee cannot consider aspects of the proposal that are not related to the required variances, noise pollution, property maintenance, property values, prosecution for illegal construction, personal comments regarding neighbors, agents, or applicants, and additional variances without proper public notice. If there is an identified need for an additional variance or variances, including an increase in the extent of the relief required, a recirculation of the application is required. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property and file a statutory declaration confirming the sign posting. We don't have confirmation of that or any of the applications today. So we'll be going through we'll be asking the applicants or the agent to swear in a solemn oath or declaration so that we can proceed with their applications. Regarding quorum, if this is lost during the hearing due to technical difficulties, the proceedings will be paused to allow time for the resolution of the issue. Failing the ability to reinstate quorum, hearing of the items remaining will resume at the outset of the next regularly scheduled meeting of the committee. In terms of the hearing process, listed on the agenda and appearing on the screen are the applications we will hear today. For the sake of efficiency, the committee may deal with agenda items in a different order. Note that the committee members have reviewed the application materials prior to this hearing and any written submissions received in support or in opposition. In addition, the committee will hear today oral submissions from any interested parties as part of our proceedings. The committee may ask for a brief presentation by the applicant, followed by questions from the members where clarification may be needed. The public submissions portion of the hearing will then begin, and any interested parties will be invited to make their submissions to the committee. Panel members may then ask follow-up questions where added clarification may be required. When you are called upon to provide your comments, we will ask you to do the following. Start with stating your name and municipal address. For the record, we may ask you to spell your name. Then begin your submission by addressing your comments to the panel members. You may ask questions, but please direct them only to the chair. Please limit your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at the committee's discussion. Once all interested parties have had an opportunity to address the panel, the public submissions portion of the hearing will then be closed. The committee will then make an oral decision to either grant or deny the application. The committee may also choose to reserve its decision. In such case, the panel will deliberate further on the evidence presented immediately following adjournment of the public hearing. In either case, the committee will send within 10 days of its decision, and to all the parties and those who have requested it, a written decision that sets out the reasons for the decision. Decisions of the Committee of Adjustment may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal for a fee within 20 days of the date of the written decision. Only the applicant, the City of Ottawa, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, a specified person, and certain public bodies that have an interest in the matter may appeal the decision. Specified persons and certain public bodies include public utilities, but do not include an individual or community association. Are there any, before we begin, are there any declarations of interest regarding the items on today's agenda for panel 1, panel 2, or panel 3? None seen. Okay. We have minutes to confirm. And these are the minutes from December 7th, 2022. Any additions, modifications that are necessary to be made to the minutes that we have been presented? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as presented to us? No, minutes for December 7th, 2022 are adopted. We will now move to adjournment requests, and we have several today. The first application for adjournment we have before us is item number 5 on the agenda. And this is a property at 214 Pretoria Avenue. It's an application to permit reductions to landscaped area, western interior setback and driveway separation, increased driveway width, and to allow on-site parking for the conversion of the dwelling into a 4-unit dwelling. And the request for the adjournment is before us today is from the planning department. Is the planner there?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Upon review of the application, staff determines that a minor variance will be required to permit a rear yard setback of 8.5 meters, whereas 9.27 meters is required, and an adjournment will allow the applicant to add the variance to the application.
Okay. I believe the applicant's agent is Mr. Heyman. Is he there?
Yes, that's me.
All right, Mr. Heyman, you're aware of the need for a further variance?
Yeah, I'm aware and I agree.
There'll have to be a filing, and this will have to adjourn this sine die. You're also we also understand that you'd like to get this onto the committee's agenda as soon as possible.
Yes, if possible. I'm ready to resubmit my application today.
We have space, Mr. Secretary Treasurer, on the hearing on the 5th of February. There's space.
Mr. Chair, the next hearing is on the 1st of February, and the following one is on the 15th. There's definitely room on the 15th, and we will try to schedule this earlier if possible, but it will be scheduled at the next possible hearing.
Okay. All right, Mr. Heyman. So if you can move things along, we can get you on the agenda on the first hearing in February.
Okay, perfect.
All right. All in favor of adjourning this hearing, sine die. Hearing's adjourned. We'll see you next month.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. The second hearing that's up for adjournment today is an application for 190 Bayswater Avenue. And this is an application to subdivide the property into 2 separate parcels of land to create 1 new lot for future residential development. And the adjournment request for this application is from the agent. I believe that's Mr. Neuroder. Is he there?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Neuroder is not online. If you can step this down, I will give him a call.
All right, we can. We'll step this down and move into the regularly scheduled agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. When you hear from him, just let us know, and we can deal with the adjournment right away.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Second, ladies and gentlemen. First application we'll deal with on the regular agenda today is item number 172 and 174 Russell Avenue. And these are applications to permit reductions in front and side yard setbacks, driveway width, and reduced percentages for window area and front facade recession for the conversion of the current semi-detached dwellings into an 8-unit low-rise apartment building. And the agent for this application is Mr. Richardson.
Oh, there I am. Hello.
Mr. Richardson, for the record, your address, please.
172, 174 Russell Avenue.
Okay, and we'll have to do or administer the oath of solemn declaration. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
Yes, I swear.
Okay.
It's posted on December 22nd.
All right. We note, sir, that there was an order to comply issued by the City of Ottawa on the 21st of October last year. What did that order to comply entail? What was the reason for it?
The reason was that I started construction prior to receiving a building permit for this application. In my, I guess, failure to understand the entire process, this process I submitted for building permit January 2nd of 2022. So it's taken over a year for me to get the permit, which I did not think was going to be that long. This is the first build of this nature for me.
Okay. So your application for a permit was in for quite some time.
Yes.
All right.
Took a while for me to understand how to navigate the system and what needed to be what in the process. Like I mentioned, this was my first build of this sort.
All right. We note from the planning department report that there are several amendments that are necessary regarding variance D. Permit a reduced minimum width of 2.31 meters for a driveway. Providing access to parking spaces other than in a parking garage or parking lot, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum width of, and that should read 2.6 and not 2.61 meters for a driveway. And the second amendment is to variance J, to permit a reduced minimum width of 2.3 meters for a driveway, providing access to parking spaces. And again, it's the minimum width was put in incorrectly as 2.61. It should read 2.6. So those are the two changes to the variances. And the planning department has indicated that variances F and L, where the reduced front yard setbacks are not required. And they explain that the applicant has confirmed that the front yard setback aligns with the average of the abutting lots corresponding yard setbacks abutting the street. Therefore, the front yard setback is compliant. So you're aware of those you're aware of those changes?
Yep, I was in contact with the city.
Okay. All right. Well, if you'd like to make give us a presentation on your application, please.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for hearing this. And as I mentioned before, this is my first time going through this whole process. So thanks for your patience in advance. When we started, I'd like to state that the building that has been there since the early 1900s that we're requesting, and all the variances that we request are potentially on that building and that building alone. Anything that is going to be newly built is all within the city zoning and doesn't require any variances. It's just the existing building that's been in question. And when we sat down to do the original design, I was a resident of Sandy Hill from 2005 to 2017. So I understand being a resident and a lot of what the residents of Sandy Hill were looking for. I've owned the property since 2009, and it was previously rented to groups of students. And when we sat down, obviously with the city and the mandate in housing and me getting older, not wanting to deal with as many students as tenants, I thought that this build would be what the neighborhood would request or would require. That we're going from 2 semi-detached properties that were rented to as a 6-bedroom dwelling, and the other one at 174 was a 5-bedroom dwelling with a secondary dwelling in the basement. So the intensification actually goes from 12 tenants to ideally 16, which in my opinion was a minimal jump. And like I mentioned, it's going to allow me to be able to rent to a varied group of tenants, not just specific groups. And again, it's a little bit more manageable as a landlord, as I own the property, that the tenants are a little bit more accountable to one another, not just the surrounding neighbors.
Do you have any elevations you can show us of your proposal?
I don't have any attached to this. I can send them to you, but I didn't include any in the presentation.
Oh, we have them here.
Perfect.
So that's the building as it exists, I'm assuming?
Yes, it is. It had the 2 separate entrances, and from the front, it's the 2 separate entrances. The balcony makeups will be different. The basement windows will be larger in the proposed.
I think we have, this is the sides of both sides of the building and with the proposed addition.
Yeah.
And this is the front, I take it, with the proposed addition constructed.
Yes.
Front and the rear. Okay.
Yeah. So very minimal changes in terms of entrances, reduced from 2 doors to 1 on both balconies and porches, and increased dormer for the interior staircase so that there's more windows.
Okay. And I assume that we assume that you've talked to your neighbors about this?
Yeah, I actually good relationship with most in surrounding. I've owned the property since 2009, so we've been through it all together. And we're actually adapting the south side of the building to assist. The neighbor built a garage. We're going to do some hardy board that matches his garage, which he was happy with.
But you're aware that several of your neighbors are in objection to this application because of things like increased parking on the street, too much residential density. And we're just wondering how you respond to those neighbors.
I mentioned intensification would go from 12 to 16, but we're actually adding a second parking spot. There's been one in the front of the building, but our site plan has 2 parking spots in the back. So we've actually increased the parking, and we're only increasing the building by 4.
Do we have a site plan that shows what this is going to look like on the ground with that increased parking?
It was submitted, so they should have it.
Okay. Okay, so that's, I see 2 in the back, and you're
2 in the
adding
back. Yeah. And there was 1 at the front in front of 174, which is on the left side of the building, where the bike rack and the concrete planter are now.
Okay. And I think Ms. McLean had some questions regarding the right of way between your property and the property to the south. Ms. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Richardson, is that driveway navigable? Can a car go down there?
Yes, it is. So it's been used as an alleyway to the back for the neighboring property for quite some time now, for as long as I've owned the property. And I've actually put a Honda Odyssey minivan down the alley. So compact cars fits quite easily. Mid-size SUVs, Santa Fe's have fit, Nissan Pathfinders. So it does fit cars, not all cars, but majority, yes.
So in your plan, the right of way that exists between you and the property to the south doesn't extend to the back of the lot. It stops a certain distance down. How do you get to your 2 proposed parking spaces without a further right of way?
That site plan that you're actually looking at has been changed a little bit. Those parking spaces essentially are coming off the garage. There was a couple trees in the forestry department thought that might be a bit of an issue. So we actually just moved those parking spots. There we go, to the front of the property now.
So does the right of way extend to the furthest end of part 1?
It starts basically at the front of part 1, but I also own the neighboring property 176, 178 that now uses the laneway. As of 2020, I bought that property. So it doesn't necessarily need any sort of easement at this time, but in the future, it potentially could. I've been in discussions with my lawyers about that.
I advise you don't need one now.
So just to clarify, you're the owner of the property to the south as well?
Yes, 176, 178 is part of a numbered company.
And I guess my final question is, there's an existing right of way shown on the plan, part 3, at the rear of one of the half of the semis that was proposed to provide parking to the other half back when it was severed. Is your new addition going to be built over that existing part 3?
Yes, a little bit on the corner as well. Yeah, a few feet.
And are you able to do that? Have you got legal advice on whether you can build on an existing right of way, or?
Again, the legal advice is that because I own the other side of the property, it's not an urgent need to deal with that, but upon sale in the future, that it should be addressed at some point.
And then just finally, I guess, just to clarify, for both halves of the semi that was previously severed, they're in the same name?
Yes.
Same ownership name?
Yes, my wife and I.
Own both halves?
Own both halves, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. That clarifies some of the questions we had regarding the 4 tests which you need to satisfy for us to approve. How does this application meet those requirements?
Sorry, I wasn't prepared with my submitted request, but actually caught me a little off guard. Basically, intensification of the neighborhood, proximity to transit, and the ability that a wide variety of tenants can use this property. Allows it to be, in my opinion, a good development for the neighborhood in the city of Ottawa. It matches the intensification and the need for the city's growth. With the interior finishes and the layouts of the apartments, it allows a large demographic as well.
And as far as you're concerned, what you're proposing represents good development and or use of the land?
I think good development in the sense that I'm not changing anything in respect to streetscape that a regular residential building wouldn't do in terms of adding windows. And I think that it adds to the neighborhood in the sense that when I first started in the neighborhood, I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with my wife, and it was similar to this and not as big. So I think that this is a great entry point for, as mentioned before, a large demographic of people.
And as far as the variances are concerned, whether or not they're minor, you were saying that all of these variances represent an existing condition.
All the variances reflected are upon the existing building. The the new addition that's 18 by 30, that'll be off the back, 18 deep and 30 wide, all will fall into the zoning permitted.
Yeah, there's no associated variances with that, with the addition.
No.
All right, so basically these are technical variances in a sense.
Yeah.
Because you're reflecting what is already there. All right, any other questions from the members regarding this application? You're prepared to vote? All in favor of the application as amended? Your application's approved. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Chair, Mr.
Yes.
Naruto for 190 base water is online now.
Okay. We can deal with the adjournment. All right, so item 7, 190 Bayswater is an application to subdivide the property into 2 separate parcels of land to create 1 new lot for future residential developments. And the request for adjournment has been made by the applicant, and Mr. Neurotter is here, I believe. Now, Mr. Neurotter.
Yes, I am here.
Right. And your address for the record, please.
190 Bayswater, Unit 3.
Okay. And your the reason why you why you're requesting an adjournment?
First off, my apologies for not being online sooner. I had thought the adjournment was already granted, and therefore I wouldn't have to appear. So my
No.
apologies to the panel for that. And it's actually the city planner's office that first requested the adjournment because they're not quite yet prepared to process this file. So I'm just on board with that, with hopes to reschedule down the road once we get all the information sorted.
Yeah, we noticed that there's some issues regarding the property that need to be
There appear to be
clarified.
some issues, yeah, and more forthcoming by the sounds of it.
Okay. So this is and the planning department's in agreement with a request to adjourn sine die on this application. Ms. Linker?
Yes, Mr. Chair, planning department's in agreement.
All right. All right, Mr. Rutter. With that being said, all in favor of adjourning this application, sine die. We'll see you in the future.
Very kindly. Have yourselves a great day.
You too.
All right.
Next item on the agenda is item 2. 77 bracket 75 on bracket Armstrong Avenue. And this is an application to subdivide the property into 2 separate parcels of land to establish separate ownerships for the existing semi-detached dwelling. And the agent for this application is Mr. Gibson, I believe. You're there.
It is me. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Your address for the record, please, Mr. Gibson.
77 Armstrong Street.
All right. And this is we understand that there was a consent application granted in 2016.
That's correct.
Okay. And this consent application is exactly the same?
That's correct. Yes. It was my own error, administrative clerical error, that I just failed to fulfill some administrative conditions towards the end of the 1-year timeline. So then I just decided to let it lapse and just complete the project and then apply for severance.
You're aware of the okay. You're aware of the conditions.
Mr. Chair, the oath needs to be administered.
Oh, that's true. Sorry.
Not a problem.
It's the first application, first hearing in the new year. Mind you, I do this all the time. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I do.
Okay, so the building code services and the 1 hour firewall condition, there's independent services condition, an agreement for a noise and vibrations. The property is located next to an active railway line, as you know, a joint use and maintenance agreements, and a tree planting plan.
Yes, and I'm not sure if this is the proper procedure, so I apologize. This is my first time representing myself. but I did have questions regarding condition 1 and condition 3 in regards to the party wall inspection, as the house has been completed for 5 years and the party wall is sealed with in drywall. So it's just curious as to what that process might be, if there's a way to discover that during this proceeding. And in addition to the noise, the noise consideration for on title, I just wanted to understand that a bit more, because that was not asked about in 2016. In fact, the noise reduction vibration study had taken off the list of conditions in the initial application. So I just want to understand why that would be put on the title as of now.
Mr. Van Wyck from the department, could you please explain to Mr. Gibson why this is necessary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gibson did reach out to me this morning, and I'm in contact with my colleagues in infrastructure. So I'm working on providing him with a response, and we'll work on discharging those conditions.
And that includes the firewall?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think what we'll do is we'll impose those conditions, and then you can deal with the department, Mr. Gibson.
Okay. So that means the title would still appear on, or the noise consideration would still appear on title, or would not appear on title?
I guess that's going to be dealt with in discussions that you're going to have between yourself and the department.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So regarding this severance of 77 Armstrong Avenue, all in favor of the severance? Consent's granted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Next application that's before us is for 173, 175, and 177 Cumberland Street. And these are applications to subdivide the property into 2 parcels of land with reduced lot widths, lot areas, and front, rear, and side yard setbacks for separate ownerships of the existing townhouse dwellings, not duplex and townhouse dwellings. It's now just simply a townhouse dwelling. The agent for this application is Ms. Martins. Is she there?
Yes, hi.
For the record, your address, please.
It is 5897 Fernbank Road.
And I'll have to administer the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
Yes.
Okay. I note from the planning report that there are several amendments. I've already mentioned the fact that this is now going to be referred to as a townhouse dwelling and not a duplex and townhouse dwelling.
Right.
And variance A on A00309, 173 and 175 Cumberland Street, parts 1, 2, 5, and 6. The variance A has been changed to permit reduced lot areas of 95 square meters instead of 190, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum lot area of 135 square meters as opposed to 225. You're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, and then variances B as in Bob, C, D as in Dennis, G, and H, and I are not required. And the department has stated that variances being deleted relate to the building, which is not being altered at this time. The only variances required relate to the establishment of the new lots.
Correct.
Okay. So very briefly, please explain your request.
Sure. This building was actually separated into 2 towns. So on one side, 173 and 175 and 177 way back in 1951. We purchased the property in mid 2022. What had happened in the interim is someone had bought all of the units and they had merged under the Planning Act. So our intent is just to re-separate, if you will, 177.
Okay. I note that the planning department has no objections to this application. There are several requested conditions. Building Code Services requires independent services that comply to the Ontario Building Code. There's a second one for just for independent services to be identified, a joint use and maintenance agreement, a noise level agreement, and there is a request for a condition from the pretty standard request from Hydro. And I'm just
Yes.
wondering, from the planning department, I'm a little confused why condition 1 and condition 2, which deal with independent service, why we have 2 conditions to deal with independent services. Perhaps if the department could explain that to me and the rest of the members of the committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So these conditions were requested by our engineering colleagues, so I would have to follow up with them.
Okay. All right. So there may or may not be a modification to those conditions.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's not a concern. This building has had separate metering for all of the units for a long time, so I don't think that'll be a big issue.
Well, I guess you can have a discussion with the engineering folks, and determine whether or not 1 and 2 can be merged into just 1.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant from other members of the panel? All right. Okay. So we have in the matter of the severance of the property at 173, 175, and 177 Cumberland Street, all in favor of the application? Your consent is granted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
You too. The next application on the agenda today is item 6, 8 Rupert Street. And this is an application to permit a reduced rear yard setback, side yard setback, and increased building height from the renovation of the existing garage. And the applicant for this request for relief is Mr. Heyman. Is he there?
For 8 Rupert?
Yeah.
I'm the agent's Nicholas Semenik.
Yeah, Mr. Semenik. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm reading the wrong one. Mr. Semenik. My apologies. All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I do.
Okay. All right. We note that there was an order to comply issued by the department on the 24th of March of 2022. Could you explain that to us, please?
Yeah, the main house was under renovation, and at the time there's a garage existing in the back that needed some upkeep and update, and the owners and contractor went ahead and made adjustments to that without a permit. Basically, it's the existing footprint that the base of the garage was rotted out. It was raised, a slab was put down, and in the interim, it was raised a little bit higher than what would be allowed. Because that change, we were informed that we would need to go to the committee. So we were also informed that once it was changed, that it was now non-conforming, and we'd have to put in a building permit for the changes, which we did, which then triggered the committee of adjustment, an application of the committee of adjustment. That makes sense?
Yeah. So there are three variances requested.
Yes. So the 3 variants requested, the 2 of them are because of the position of the accessory building on the property where it sits, and which is close to the southern and the western sight line or property line. And the 3rd one was because of the situation of the building raising slightly above the allowable height.
Have you got a graphic you can show us that explains those or illustrates those setback requests?
can I do, but I know they were all submitted in the package.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Okay.
so that is the existing, was a garage shed, we called it, because it'll be closed so that they can use it for basically a place to fix their skis, and in the winter it's a little wee workshop that's private. So basically the 0.23 and the 0.13 is the existing position on the property where the shed was, and you show the other ones, I can show the height change. So, and the elevations is basically cleaning it up because it was a bit dilapidated the way it was sitting, and taking the garage door out, putting windows in the front.
You're aware of the setback requirements on these kinds of constructions on a property.
Well, that's why we've come to the committee, because it was an existing garage that was been rehabilitated, and had it not, the roof not changed, I think we would have been okay for its position.
Yeah. Yes, it's a good thing it's on the same, the footprint hasn't changed.
Footprint hasn't changed.
And how long has that building been there?
Oh my, I think since the 50s or 40s or 50s, it's been a long time. We did have to do a historical search for how long it's been in place. At least in my letter, it'd been at least 50 years in the same place.
Okay. Because typically we question the substantial reduction in setback requirements and property lines because of maintenance issues on these kinds of accessory dwellings.
Of course.
But you've indicated that this dwelling has been there for for half a century.
That's correct.
It hasn't moved. It just got higher.
It just got fixed so it didn't fall down. So
okay.
Probably a better safety feature. So
okay. Yes, because the department is determined it's illegal non-complying. So
yes.
So there's no issue with them, nor is there with us regarding reduction in separation distance to a property line.
Okay.
As far as the use of the renovated garage is concerned.
Yeah, it's going to be. It will be used by the owners. Essentially that they use it for waxing their skis, maintaining their bicycles, and being a little bit of escape. They did renovate their existing 50-year-old plus house to keep it and not tear it down to become another big block on the street. So they look at this as being a little bit of a release and a workplace for them, an operable shed, so that they can do that stuff, but they're not trying to do it in their basement, which is quite low and tight and constrictive to get into. So.
And you're also aware that some of the neighbors have concerns regarding the potential use of this structure.
Yeah, we saw that it will not be used as habitation. There's water to it for hydronic heat, so it's comfortable. There's no plumbing to it.
So if we impose a condition that this is not a garage anymore, it's going to be an accessory structure in the rear yard. Garages are buildings for housing vehicles.
It'll be a
so
shot.
This renovated structure remains non-residential.
Correct.
That would be a condition we'd impose.
Yeah. I don't see an issue that's going to be used as a workshop.
Okay. And the redefinition to an accessory structure and not garage.
Okay.
And I note that there's no definition for garage in the zoning bylaw. Hopefully we have that in the new zoning bylaw. Anyway, any questions from the members regarding this application? No. We note that there are no requested conditions. The planning department is in agreement. I'm assuming that the owners have had discussions with their neighbors.
Yes. Yeah, that they had circulated what they were doing and whether people opposed or would provide support, and those letters were submitted.
Yeah, and we also note that there are 5 letters of support from from neighbors on the street.
That's correct.
The application. Okay. All right. Thanks very much for your presentation, regarding 8 Rupert Street. This request for relief, all in favor of this application, with the condition that the building is an accessory structure, now an accessory structure, remains non-residential.
Correct.
All in favor? All right, our application's approved. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Well, you've already completed your project.
No, it had to stop. It basically
okay.
stopped when we got
Next time, get a building permit first.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application on the agenda, well, they are 8, 9, 10, and 11. And these regard 107, 109 Carruthers and 103, 105 Carruthers, which are long semi-detached dwellings built on adjacent lots. The agent for these applications is Mr. Leroy. Is he there?
I'm here.
Your address for the record, please, sir.
My address, 660 Hochelaga Street, Unit 46, Ottawa, Ontario.
Okay. All right. So we note that the planning department has no concerns with the application. We also note that the Mechanicsville Community Association has had some comments, and they have some concerns. I'm assuming you're aware of those concerns.
I became aware of the concerns, yes.
Okay, and there are some conditions that the department wishes to impose. I think before we start, did I go through the all? Did I just issue you with the oath or declaration?
You have not yet.
No, I have not. I've reminded myself. I'm good sometimes. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I do.
Okay. So I think Ms. McLean had a question regarding the strata reference in your application, Ms. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Levoy, could you just explain the strata part of this application?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure. What do you mean? What strata part? Sorry.
Well, the reference plan referred to it as a strata plan, and it has some part numbers on it. Is the third floor connected from across?
There is no connection between the two buildings.
There is no
connection. Are separate. No.
So the sections that are shown on the draft reference plan, can you just explain those to me, or?
They're basically overhangs from, so the building stretches out a little bit beyond what the entrance is, so it overhangs the entrance, and those are they are part of different units, so they were separated in the plan. The higher because how do I explain that? They were they were, when they were built, when they were separated, it was just, this is they wanted to make it clear that it was part, this overhang was which part of the building it was part of, so it ties into part part 2 ties into part 1 and part 7 into part 6, not part 9 and part 3. So it was, I'm not, I can honestly say I'm not 100% sure why they did it that way, and not just, but I do know that the buildings do not touch.
And the units then are contained within their own property lines.
The units are contained within their own property lines. That's,
Thank you. Yeah, that's fine.
So is this really a strata severance? Or is that just a misuse of the term?
it may have been a misuse of the term.
Okay.
They're too long semi-detached.
There's no overhead connection.
No,
Okay. Anything else, Ms. McLean?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's fine.
Okay. So the department, the planning department has said the size and shape of proposed lots are suitable for the use of the land. The lots will front onto an established municipal road with municipal services. They have requested conditions. Number one, a landscape plan showing location of trees planted on each lot, or proof of number of trees planted, or confirmation that it is not possible to plant in this location. Number two, building code services requests the compliance with the confirmation that independent services are compliant to the Ontario Building Code. Again, we've had this before this morning or this afternoon. The third one is independent services. So we have a request from the planning department, a request from the engineering people, and those two conditions may actually potentially merge into one. So you may want to have a conversation with the engineering folks and the planning department regarding 2 and 3.
okay,
We're going to leave it as is, but that you may end up with only one.
okay, yeah,
Independent services, be assured that there's a joint use and maintenance agreement and a noise
Yes.
level agreement as well. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
aware of all that.
Yeah.
You've said that you are also aware of the objections, or the concerns that were posted by the Mechanicsville Community Association. I'd like to respond to their concerns.
The plan that was originally submitted, the site plan that was originally submitted was the incorrect one. It was updated with the city, and the plan that was that they had in hand, or that was ended up as part of the project, is the one that they had from the original submission back in 2019. So it is the proper site plan was added to the submission. And as for
there's reference to a fence between two properties.
yes, the snow fence.
We don't
between-
deal with that, by the way.
I was going to say it's one of it's not really relevant to the matter before the committee.
No, but it was raised. So just so that you're aware.
Yeah, we were aware. It's just it wasn't really relevant to this particular matter before the committee.
No, that's an agreement between two property owners.
And I have no knowledge of that agreement. So
All right, that's fine. Thanks. Mr. Wildman, you had a question or comment?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure I heard it, but just better safe than sorry that Hydro also has a requested condition for common elements. I'm not sure if you mentioned that. I don't think I heard
I don't think he
it.
mentioned it, but I did see the condition.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's on page 2 of my report, which I didn't look at.
I just wanted to make sure that the applicant was aware of that.
I was aware. My client is aware of the conditions, and I as your representative is as well.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Wildman. It's nice to have help. Yeah. Everything should be on one page. Don't tell that to a lawyer, though.
I'm not listening.
Yeah, I didn't make the comment either. Okay. Okay, so we've gone through the conditions. The variance is to reduce the flagpole from the required 1.7 to 1.5. I don't think the planning department has no concerns with that. That's not going to cause any issues in your estimation.
No, well, in mine, or are you asking the planner? In my estimation, no, I don't see any issues with this. The building is already built and everything's already in place. So I guess if this was a new build, maybe there might be more concern, but we're just trying to create, allow for ownership, multiple ownership as opposed to,
Okay. All right. Any other questions and or comments from the members of the panel? Okay, so in reference to 107, 109, and 103, 105 Carruthers Avenue, all in favor of the applications as presented. Your application's approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next application we'll deal with on the agenda is item 12, 33 Arthur Street. And this is an application to permit reductions in lot width and lot area for the construction of a new 3-unit dwelling. And the applicant for this, or the agent for this applicant, for the applicant is Bing-Feng Li. Mr. Li, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, I can hear you. And your address for the record, sir, please.
It's 33 Arthur Street.
Okay. Okay. And if you could, I just note that the planning department has no concerns with the application.
Yeah.
But that the forestry department has noted that the removal of an existing shed in the rear yard is within the critical root zone of tree number 3. And the utmost care must be used to prevent impacts. I'm assuming you've talked to the forestry department regarding this?
Yes, I'm aware of it. This tree belongs to the neighbor, so we have very small, very little shed that's beside it. So during construction, we're gonna have the fence to protect the trees. So that's something we're gonna follow during construction. So I don't think that's gonna be something, some issue on it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
I have to read you the oath or solemn declaration. You solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time.
Yes.
Okay. So very briefly, Mr. Li, your application, just explaining what you're doing.
Yeah, so right now the current building is detached single house. So the homeowner wants to convert to want to rebuild three units dwelling, demolish the existing building. So there are two minor variants that we apply for. So first variance is lot width. So the code required 10 meter. Right now we have 9.42. So second one is area. So we have 289 square meter. The code required is 300. So these two minor variants that we apply for. So we already write down all the reason and why that is meeting the city's forecast screening. So I think that is a minor variance.
Yeah, well, we note that the planning department has no concerns with the application, and we have no concerns or objections from the neighbors or any other agency to the
I'm one of
application.
the neighbors, and I just had 2 questions.
And could you identify yourself, please, ma'am?
Yes. Sorry to interrupt. Alexis Shotwell. I'm at 110 Cambridge Street North.
Okay.
So just right behind. So one of my questions was about the tree and the shed coming down. Is there a place that I can? The tree is on my property.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I just wanted to sort of connect about that, and I also wondered what the plan is for the fence and when this will happen, because it might affect if I do some work in our yard too.
Well, I think these are discussions that you should have with the property owner.
How do I do that?
Well, you see Mr. Li here, He can, you folks can get in touch with each other and have a discussion.
The owner, I
regarding
believe, is Ken Tom, though.
That's right. Yes, I think the also online. Yeah, but you know, I can give you some answer for this question. So I think your question is regarding the fence and the tree itself. So there are going to be like two parts to deal with these trees. So one is from tree information report. We need to fence the tree all around during construction so that that tree will be protected. So the second part is about your fence. The fence during construction, because this lot is not that wide. So during construction, during building permit application, city reviewer may ask for like a showering plan for construction method, which gonna be protecting your fence during construction. So that means this fence related protection will be like a construction showering method to be provided during the building permit application.
Okay, but the fence around the tree doesn't address the possible damages to roots. So just how will that be?
Is that perhaps the forestry department can answer this?
Okay.
There.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. So through the tree protection bylaw that the city has, the applicant has to instate tree protection fencing around the critical root zone of the tree during construction. And with the removal of the shed itself, excuse me, they had to provide a tree information report, which states how they're going to work within that critical root zone to ensure the least amount of impact is experienced. So there's details from the arborist who wrote that report on how they're going to do that. Excuse me, and they're reinstating soft landscaping there. So very minimal damage is expected.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And if you're interested, I'd suggest, man, that you contact the committee secretariat, and they can probably forward you a copy of the tree information report that we have on file.
Okay. And is that also the way that I would get in touch with the property owner? Because we just haven't had any contact.
Well, Mr. Lee can, Mr. Lee can
Yeah,
contact
so
you, or you guys can talk after. And
sure. So I think the other thing is I wouldn't think that shed is a deep foundation. So when you talk about the root usually is like several feet below the grading. So if the shed is just like a very shallow foundation, when they remove this shed, will not affect root underneath. Okay, so but anyway, I have my contact on the. I don't know how we're gonna connect it. So, but
the secretariat.
Maybe I will ask.
I'll
write to Ms. Nguyen to ask to send on my email, if that's okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Okay, so with that, so what we have are two variances from 10 meters in width on the lot to 9.42, and a reduction from 300 to 289 square meters for area. Any comments or questions from the rest of the panel regarding this application? There's no conditions requested as well. We have a condition-free application. Hydro has said to contact them for further information, which is standard stuff for them. All right. And so for 33 Arthur Street, to permit reductions in lot width and area for the construction of a new 3-unit dwelling, all in favor of the application. Application's approved. Good luck with your project. And yeah, please get in touch with the secretariat and they can get you that free information report. And you can talk to the owner, the applicant, about the fence as well. Maybe you can get a better fence out of this. I didn't say that.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
I always hope. Anyway, thank you very much. All right, and I believe that is the end of today's agenda. So with that, I think this concludes the this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment, and the next time we'll see you is on the 1st of February.